it's shiena.
Hi! I tried recording 2 other intros for this, and I really suck at it. Oh my god. I had to make myself a script because I literally can't talk without one. Anyway, I'm gonna be playing through the Hayseed Night. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. I finished recording everything for this video already, but I figured I should make a proper introduction video for this. So this video, the one that you're watching, isn't really a gameplay video. The real one would probably be linked in the description, but this should serve as a sort of reference video, as I'll be reading everything available in the game's encyclopedia as a new player, so you can get all that good lore stuff right now, and I won't need to take a lot of time off of the actual story stuff to read it. So if there's a term you need a bit more context on, I have all the timestamps in the description of everything I'm reading here. And in future videos and chapters, I'll include the unlocked encyclopedia entries timestamped as well. But that's for another day. Let me just get to the actual thing. Yeah. I'm going to read all of the encyclopedia entries for lore and locations and dictionary. Well, I guess. Well, like, lore and locations. More so. Before I continue into the gameplay that I started. Okay. But this is gonna be, like, totally serious. I'm totally serious. Okay, we'll start with... Okay. We'll start with locations, and then lore, and then go our way down. Okay, cities. Heirloom. Can I just have a pass for pronunciation? I'm so terrible. I can read, but I can't pronounce. So let me just have that, please. Okay, Heirloom, the capital of Akazor, and the most populated city in the whole of Dakna. The jewel of the Arcane Steppes, always growing the isthmus that separates Lake Tizal from the Alar Sea, despite the apparent lack of space. Heirloom has a huge overpopulation problem, which is due to its location in the middle of a mostly infertile steppe overridden by bandits, the cause of an ongoing famine. The royal court only inhabits the palace that towers over the city from Bleak Night to Dawnsoon, moving to smaller palaces far up to the north in the hot moons of Dawnsoon. Hello, locations! Akazor! Akazor is a huge kingdom located on the eastern end of the steppes. It is ruled in its entirety by the immortal High King Isifik, a beast of legend turned deer that has been sitting on his throne in Heirloom since time immemorial. Helping him govern each province and continue its expansion, lords descended from the original deer that helped Isifik battle other beasts, rule each province, having petty inside wars and applying the laws as they see fit, knowing well that they're protected by their status as nobles. Akazor suffers from a horrible problem of mismanagement, where most of its resources are destined to their capital just to keep the huge famines that devastate it every Dawnsoon under check. Okay. Basaksarat is the name given to the Barahan kingdom that occupied the southern end of the continent, a desert peninsula connected to the rest of Dakna by an isthmus occupied by a perennial forest of people. The kingdom was lost to the sands of time 4 centuries ago, buried by deer with a lot of swords and torches. And planets, Dakna! The world we inhabit is mainly composed of a single enormous continent that extends from the frozen northern reaches of to the Arcane Steppes that are home to the biggest portion of Akazor, to the prairies of the and the forest of the people in the south, which are connected through an isthmus to the desert peninsula that used to occupy the kingdom of Basaksarat. The vast majority of the world has an arid climate where only steppen life forms thrive without the help of irrigation and similar technologies. This is the reason why, with the exception of where the climate is very forgiving and water is abundant, and the nomadic people that live off herding bushes and digging for underground water, towns all across Dakna form and survive exclusively around exuberant oases and lakes. We're done with locations! Now to lore. Okay. Okay, we'll start with magic then. The Sephihet. The Sephihet. Sephi is the name received by Barahan practitioners of Sephihet, a highly sophisticated form of reality. Can I speak? A highly sophisticated form of reality alteration, with the common folk boiled down to mere magic. Sephihet consists on the manipulation of the Hatsa itself, using godstones as a source of energy, or, for more advanced practitioners, one's own emotional responses.
Next page!
Deer and magic. As much as deer distrust anything they cannot hit with their antlers, Sephihet is as necessary to their comfort and success as it was in the heyday of Basaksarat. Therefore, deer have schools where the same concepts are taught, under a different name, of course. Zarzagan is the term used for arcane wizards, who did their absolute best at rebranding to avoid associating any negative connotation to their watered-down version of the same concept.
I see.
Oh no, I didn't mean to close it. Okay, let's I think we should look at species, since I think that the conflicts between each of them consist of the main of an overarching conflict. Wait, I said that? Whatever. Okay, we'll start with Barahan. Oh, okay, I'm just gonna go in order. I think it was like that for a reason. Okay. Beast. Parents all over the steppes tell their children that these horrible creatures will come down and feast upon their flesh if they don't behave. What are these monsters said to feel nothing but an intense desire to devour and destroy? Created by Ahimai during the War of Two, the beast's only purpose was to exact revenge upon Vaitat's creation, the deer that had taken over Dakna. They were defeated and destroyed after one of their own shared their only weakness with the deer. Vaitat rewarded him by granting him immortality and a deer-like appearance, thus becoming the immortal king Isifik, that still rules over Akazor to this day. Wise people know that they shouldn't fear the monsters they can't see, but rather the ones they do. Golem. Lifelike puppets created by Cephis during the Barahan Rebellion. They were built to carry specific tasks, from serving tea to wreaking havoc, and resemble Ikane, with the sole intention to mock the deer. Tradition dictates that their frames are made of brass, porcelain, or marble making the bulk of their body, an inner core made of rock crystal, and silk, fur grass, or real hair decorating their heads and tails. Upon purchase, they would bear the mark of the gazelle that had bought them, forsaking all connection to their creator. Most were destroyed during and after the Barahan Rebellion, so the ones that remain reach quite a high price among collectors. Wait, where does it... Okay, now we're going to religion.
And the main lore.
Baitatse, the Hatsa, and Oblivion. Baitatse is, simply put, the cosmos, the all. It is an entity that connects the universe together. It is not seen as a god in any way, but rather as an unconscious entity. The very essence of reality. Everything that surrounds us everything that surrounds us and holds existence together, often represented as an empty box. While some regional cults speak of the Baitatse being created by other gods, more traditional views maintain that Baitatse is in charge of providing every god with a sandbox in which to exercise their powers.
The Hatsa.
The union between Baitatse and Dakna is known as Hatsa, a current that passes through every living being, connecting with their very blood. Every being blocks the stream that passes through them to some degree, but only those that know the ways of Sephihet can truly tap into the current and block it completely, gathering more and more Hatsa behind them as they live. This makes them wise and powerful, but it weighs down on them, eroding their bodies and minds away little by little. Once every being dies, the current continues its path like a furious torrent, carrying some of the previous blocker's strength to be passed on to the next creature that it was fated to inhabit. In this way, all the bloodlings are connected to each other, and no two living people can be part of the same current. Oblivion. The polar opposite is oblivion. Bloodlings believe that having their connection to the Hatsa erased somehow is the worst punishment possible, since they, and any creature that would have been connected to them, would cease to exist in any way. Only the worst criminals and Sephis are condemned to oblivion, the complete erasure of not only your person, but the very memory of you, a sentence to be apart from the world for all of the lives that may share your current. Every curse or otherwise ill-meaning Sephihet has their basis on this concept, an alteration to your connection to the Hatsa. If you encounter small gods or cursed people, take a moment to pity them, for it's rarely their fault that they became either. Now to existence after death. In the world of Dakna, life is celebrated for as long as it lasts, but death is not wept with much ardor. Life is borrowed from the future and taken from the past. It is therefore understood that death is an eventuality, but not a permanent state of the soul, for it is something borrowed from the universe itself. The punishment for Sephiet is to be burned in life, in an attempt to have all future lives remember the suffering that comes from stealing from the future. Okay. First Age, the War of Two. The world of Dakna was entrusted to Ahimai originally. He decided to turn it into a vast garden that he could watch over and modify to his own tastes. During a long nap, his younger brother Baitat snuck into his garden and began adding his own creations to it. At first, he carved figures out of marble, mere puppets that he could play with, but he soon grew bored. Wait, I gotta burp. Thus, he decided to invent a new concept, the bloodlings, weak creatures that came and went in a blink for him, changing constantly. Creations that soon learned to use Ahimai's flora to grow strong and have lives of their own that Baitat could watch. First Age, the creation of the beasts. The first didn't take lightly to waking up just to find most of his garden turned into a steppe. In a single night, he created a new species, one that would live exclusively to hunt Baitat's creations, the beasts. Not one to be bested like that, Baitat decided to create more and more deer to fight his older brother, eventually starting the cosmic equivalent of a fist fight, the War of Two. The battle came to an end when one of the beasts turned against his own kind and revealed their weakness to the deer. Baitat himself granted him immortality for that, giving Akazor its legendary High King Isifik. Holy shit. Okay, I'll go Second Age, the Long Silence. After the War of Two, the gods disappeared. Millennia passed without a single word from any god in a time that would be known as the Long Silence. During this time, the beast that revealed the weakness of his kind to the deer, Isifik, roamed the steppes looking to unite the deer tribes. He would go on to become the immortal High King Isifik. Third Age, the Second Creation. The Long Silence came to an end with the abrupt apparition of a new figure in the skies. Thus arrived Hirab, an uncharacteristically enthusiastic god that looked forward to fix the damage caused by the War of Two. He was too young to create his own life forms, however, and instead decided to compose new beings out of his older brother's creations. But that wasn't enough for Hirab. He wanted his new creations to rule sovereign, thus starting the Barahan Rebellion. The fourth age, the Barahan Rebellion. The sublimation of the arrogant, or more commonly, Barahan Rebellion, started 437 years prior to the story, when the representative of Hirab declared that the land of Basaksarat would no longer be independent from the kingdom of Akazor, but rather replace it, taking the title of Jasif. Taking the title of Jasif, Stonebridge created an army of Sefis, powerful Barahan wizards, and golems that advanced dangerously fast towards Heirloom. It is said that Isafik himself put an end to the war, but all sources are greatly exaggerated. Be it as it may, the war ended 30 years after its inception, and things haven't looked up for gazelles ever since. Okay, we're done with religion, I think. Nope, we're not. Maybe... Oh, I think I should have read the three brothers first. Okay, I'll just edit this in. The three brothers. It is said that there are many gods in Baitatse. Akazor's mainstream religion, however, recognizes only three of them as protectors of Dakna. The brothers, or the three. Ahimai, also known as the first, the oldest brother, or forester, creator of all the plants and the beasts, extensively worshipped in sacred gardens in the city. Farmers ask for his blessing in every harvest. Baitat, also known as the second, the middle brother, or dear father, creator of the Ekain, worshipped in the biggest temples of the city, represented by the High King himself. Hirab, also known as the third, the youngest brother or the fervent, creator of the Makedar and Barahan. Makedath? I don't quote me on any pronunciations. Please just remember. Once greatly worshipped in both Akazor and Basaksarat, there are no functioning temples devoted to him anymore. Okay, now let's look at seasons! Okay. Seasons. Here's a brief review of the climate throughout the year in the Ekain steppes. The Ekain calendar is divided in 10 moons, grouped in 3 major seasons for religious reasons. Flower scene, usually lasting between 1 and 3 moons. Dawnsoon, which reliably lasts around 6 moons. Bleak Night, which rarely lasts more than 2 moons. You can read about each season. Let me go. Let me go! We're continuing. Flower scents. The most forgiving season in Akazor, with mild temperatures, occasional rain, and abundant food. This season officially starts with the first bloom of the sacred truce tree. This season holds a variety of festivities in honor of Ahimai, the oldest brother, asking him for good harvests and to keep his beasts away one more year. A deer's first marriage traditionally takes place in flower scents to be properly blessed with fertility and strength to endure their life together. Superstition has it that marrying again in the same season will instead cause the new wife to wilt away like a flower before Dawnsoon arrives. Dawnsoon, the hottest season in Akazor, when clouds migrate back to far beyond the mountains of the spine of Ahimai. This season officially starts with the first ribbon Let me go help. First ribbon fruit of the sacred truce tree. There won't be rain in the Ekain steppes for 6 full moons, and once the clouds return, they bring ice with them as a present from the frozen lands. A famed festival takes place every year during the first week of Dawnsoon in Heirloom, though it is nowadays seen as a farewell party to the lesser gods that live in the clouds. It was originally a Barahan celebration involving offerings to appeal to the chief's leniency. Bleak Night, the coldest season in Akazor, with frequent snow and cold winds coming from the sea. This season officially starts when the last leaf falls from the sacred truce tree. Famines have been a bit more forgiving in this season since the Ekane began planting tubercules as a way to save space and accidentally figured out that they were resistant to the cold. Season's done! Okay, now to species. Barahan. The once proud gazelles are bloodlings created by Herob to prosper in the desert kingdom of Basaksarat, now consumed by the sands of time, much like the history of its people. Great wizards and avid researchers during the second creation, they are easy to spot due to their extremely resilient coiled horns, short fur, most commonly sand-colored in Basaksarat's mainland, with darker variations along coastal areas, a slim body that presents little variation across sexes, and, most remarkably, the fact that both men and women are horned. Ancient tablets and scrolls point towards past petty divisions among the definition of what constitutes a Barahan, much like those common against Ekane, but the only major dispute that persists to this day is that of the Ibex. After the war, that would come to be known as the Sublimation of the Arrogant, or more commonly Barahan Rebellion, they were given two choices, either being banished to the frozen land beyond the spine of Ahimai, or taking refuge in Akazor, provided they swore allegiance to the High King Isifik. That wasn't all, of course. They had to give up all their research on Sephihet, the manipulation of the Hatsa, or magic for common folk, to the deer, abandon Basaktet definitely in favor of Sirnar, swear off Sephihet under penalty of total obliteration from existence, and pay a monthly tribute per family to the local government. Social standing. Gazelles present a myriad of contradictions to a majorly cervine society with a deep horn fixation. There is no better example than the concept of horn eaters and the stigma that follows deer that have Barahan cohorts. Their innate attunement to the Hatsa and long history of wizardry still haunt them, painting them as dormant menaces, the villains of hundreds of tales. Conversely, their agile minds and smaller frames are described lovingly, conveying a deeply condescending and paternalistic cervine desire to protect a species that has been stripped from the inventions that had allowed it to thrive. Gazelles are therefore both perceived as the personification of primness, commonly employed by richer cervine families as trusted management positions or as household servants, and sly tricksters that use their quicker wits and magic disposition to cheat, deceive, and curse deer in the street. That's so sad. Again, the oldest bloodlings that still roam the land. The deer population is mostly located on the Ekane steppes. In fact, Ekane is just an abbreviation of the Basaktet phrase, again, those who are red inside. They were created on a whim by Baitat after he snuck into his brother's garden, and have been at odds with most plants ever since. The beasts are their natural enemies for that very reason. They take pride in having strong frames, value darker fur tones and longer coats, and in case it wasn't obvious enough, there is no such thing as oversized antlers for a stag. A powerful rack is, after all, the most prominent and valuable trait a male deer can develop, a sign of dominance and virility inherited from an age that preceded the concepts of logic or reason. They have been united under High King Isifik's rule since the Long Silence, though some tribes remain independent far to the west. Social standing. Deer are most likely the dominant species in Dakna. The Ekane population extends across the vast expanse that belongs to Akazor, surpassed only in numbers by Ibex and Makedar in their various forests of people. There are several vastly differentiated ranks within this position of privilege. From the lords that watch over the many provinces of Akazor and that live to continue its expansion, to the many mayors and guildsmen required to keep towns running without the aid of their so-called protectors, to caravaneers, sailors, merchants, artisans and dancers, down to the farmers, miners, and lastly, the many lesser professions that one may acquire through the kingdom. No official rank matters quite so much as that of horn size, though. Any peasant with vast enough horns could earn even the attention of a noble. Any noble rendered hornless would speak as loudly as the lowliest mud picker. The Eckane identity. Eckanes come in all manner of sizes, coats, and colors. The life of a stag is a constant battle to prove their worth to the kinsmen, from the moment their horns are turned to live bone by the Zarzagan of their town upon their third shed, and this pointless battle to prove who is and who is not worthy of the title of true deer extends to their identity as a species. Red deer, with their long brown coats and huge curved antlers, are vastly recognized as undisputed Eckane, keeping the name firmly for themselves and designating all the others. Fallow deer from the northern steppes, with their palmed horns and a wide range of shades, roe deer from the southern reaches, with their short antlers and sand-colored coats, pudas, the smallest nomads that roam the steppes, etc. Roes firmly believe themselves to be Eckane, from antlers to hooves, but the rest of subspecies do not recognize them as such, believing their yellow fur to be the result of miscegenation with Barhans. They are extremely vocal about their bile towards horn eaters as a result. Dimorphism and Gender. Biologically, male and female deer tend to differ quite a lot from birth, but gender is not seen as a perpetual sentence. In spite of, or perhaps due to how much a stag's life revolves around proving what their identity is and the importance of horns as a signifier, gender is quite fluid and open across the steppes. A doe who did not manage to stop her shedding may, at any point in her life, choose to saw off her horns completely, with the only requirement that she saves them to give them to a stag that never grew his to begin with, so that they too may have their right of age and have them turned to bone. Some choose to forego this ritual altogether, attaching their horns to helmets that they may put on and remove as they see fit. Ibex. Barahan, they call themselves, but they're the only ones who do so. Both deer and gazelles refer to the descendants of the banished Barhans by a new name, Ibex. Not every Barahan kneeled down before the High King Isafik after losing the war. Some preferred to face the hardships of the eternal winter, far beyond the spine of Ahimai, over giving up all of their traditions. Those brave few that settled far beyond the reaches of Akazor found protection and company in the forests of Makedar that populated the harsh lands of Akhtamasarat, for they were all children of Hirab. After the annihilation of Barahan civilization in Basaksarat, the Ibex clung to the language and worship of their ancestors. They continue their worship of Hirab and pray for the day a Jasif will lead them to a new golden age. Social standing. Ibex find themselves in quite a unique situation in regards to deer. Being that they are not perceived as being the same species as gazelles, they managed to escape the history that still haunts their closest siblings, in spite of being the most ardent defendants of what they perceive as true Barhan culture. Even though deer were the direct cause of their situation, the two species are an astounding example of peaceful cohabitation, going as far as to intermarry with the few tribes of deer that live so far up north. This association was most likely helped by the fact that Ibex culture at large holds a deep resentment towards gazelles, seeing them as traitors that prefer to exchange their freedom for safety. Be it as it may, these mountain goats share little resemblance to their desert-dwelling ancestors. The harsh conditions of Akhtamasarat gave place to shorter and sturdier ibex, greatly educated warriors who are often hired as caravan guards and mercenaries in petty inside wars all over the kingdom. Makedath are children of Hirab, just like gazelles. The treemen were the youngest brother's first attempt at creating new living beings. And it's still discussed whether they are bloodlings or not, since they reproduce via fruits and produce sap. The Makedath are gigantic and incapable of speech. They size well up to, depending on your origin, 6 average deer, 7 gazelles, 26 arms, 30 feet, or 12 standardized Karnmay horns. They are huge and eerily silent. Makedath live hidden among standard trees, away from the public eye. Makedath townholds are known as forests of people. Now, repeat after me. I am never walking into a forest of goddamn gigantic sentient trees in my life because I'm not an idiot. Okay, now you. Did you say it? Okay. Makedath and Ekane have a long relationship of mutual hatred because the deer refuse to abide by the sentence I just wrote. Sorry, that's too good. That's too good. Okay. Makedar. This dumb pun is the name that the hybrids of Makedath and Ekane receive, much to their chagrin. The deer quickly realized what... Is it not Makedath? Let me just absorb this. The deer quickly realized once Makedath were created that their fruits weren't normal, but some Ekane had to eat them to realize that first. Makedar are born as weak saplings that have to be planted. Understanding their rarity, the tree deer that survived soon gathered to form their own families. One such family that rose to prominence were the Buntalos, who abandoned the forests entirely and found their place in the many palaces of the Akazor as assistants and ambassadors. They are more deer than tree at this point, but it doesn't really show. Okay, we're in dictionary now. BEEEE. BEEEE is known as the first language, since it was spoken by the gods themselves. It is extremely complex, with sentences being a huge conglomeration of words that keep changing depending on the word that comes before and after to form long syllabic strings of what can only be defined as nonsense for the untrained, the very trained, and anyone who hasn't spent at least 40 years listening to it. With the rise of Sirnar during the second creation and the apparition of Hirab, Barahans took it upon themselves to preserve this ancient language in order to please their creator. The only bloodlings that still speak BEEEE, though somewhat simplified, are Ibex. Barahan lingo, or gazelle speak, is notable for containing traces of BEEEE, taken out of context and often misconstructed, i.e. Ishkap, literally from a place, translates to dolt, as it's derived from etishkapsa, or one that falls from their chair. I can't pronounce these! Leave me be, okay? And hey, Sirnar. Sirnar is the language of the steppes, a simplified version of BEEEE, mainly differentiated in the composition of words and the use of spaces for clarification. Sirnar began being recognized as a different language by the end of the War of Two, but it was still considered inferior to BEEEE until the Barahan Rebellion, with the fall of the Kingdom of Basaksarat. Deer population has been increasing steadily since they discovered that the gods wouldn't smite them for breathing in between words. I accidentally exited exited the game! He exited the game! Oh my god, hey, English. Okay, anyways. We went through all of the dictionary, lore, and stuff. So that's cool! That's cool. Okay, so now you can use this video to reference anything that I don't read during the actual playthrough because it was already there, and yeah. If hopefully you didn't like listen all the way. Well, maybe you did. I don't know, but I hope you enjoy me actually playing through it now. Okay, I'll stop.